What's up, guys? Kevin here. I just wanted to talk about an article that I saw on 9 to 5 Mac. It's actually an ABC 2 News article, and it was republished on 9 to 5 Mac. And it was about a college student that was driving back to campus. I guess he got into an accident in his Jeep, and he was wearing an Apple Watch. And his Jeep was upside down. Luckily, it was at a busy intersection, so that he wasn't only reliant on the Apple Watch. Um, to make an emergency call for him. There's someone else who made a call, so he wasn't by himself. But on WatchOS 3 on the Apple Watch, if you press and hold the side button, and then just like you were to power it off, there's another option for medical ID information, and another option, the bottom option, for SOS. So he used SOS, which relays to the phone, and then the phone makes the phone call, sends alerts to some emergency contacts you have, and then makes the phone call to 911. And again, he wasn't only relying on the watch in this call because he was in a busy intersection, and he was fine. He had some scratches, had a leg injury, I think, but he's walking. Thankfully, he's okay. But what it made me think of is how in repair, how more and more each day, I think it's safe to say we can all say that these devices are a lifeline. Some of us, most of us, I know me, I'd rather lose my wallet than my phone. Phone has everything on it. The phone's got your wallet in it if you use it for pay and those things, right? So, all your passwords, everything. So the phone is almost, is the thing that in those situations, in those emergency situations, what's going to save us. The watch had something to do with it here, but at the time of this video, the watch still needs to connect to the phone for the phone to make that outgoing call because the watch doesn't have cellular. So the watch played a big part in that, but let's change the scenario around a little bit. Let's say, let's say he had an iPhone 6s or something. In this same sort of scenario, it didn't happen in the, in an intersection. Let's say it was a little less fortunate and it happened near a body of water, and his phone flew into, instead of it flying across the car like it did in this situation, and him just using his phone or his watch to be able to make that, call from the phone. Let's say the phone went into a body of water or went into a puddle when he got into an accident, right? And an iPhone 6s and up can survive that. 7 and 7 series much better, but the 6s and up had, the gasket, the seal around the side, which isn't going to make it waterproof, but it gives it a level of water resistancy, right? So let's say that happened, and he had, the phone falls into the puddle, and he still needs to make the call. Everything would still, would have still been fine in that scenario, right? Because the watch connects to the phone. Even if the phone gets a little wet in a puddle, it's fine as far as what Apple says that phone can handle as far as water depth, resistancy, stuff like that. But let's say that phone's repaired, right? Let's say that phone's repaired and, the tech's a little lazy, or they don't have it in stock, or they just don't know about it, or they don't want to replace it, whatever it is. And they don't replace the blue gasket, or the tape, the seal around the edge of the phone. Let's say that's not replaced. And instead of the phone surviving for those, 30 seconds, a minute, however long it's going to take for that 911 call to go through, the phone dies in 10 seconds. And that guy, again, different scenario, is in, the middle of nowhere. His phone's in a puddle, dies instantly, and isn't given that extra 30 seconds or however long is needed for that phone call. And that guy's either hanging there by a seatbelt until someone else can come and save the day, or, worst case scenario, that guy's life ends right there. No one wants to think about that. And I know this seems extreme, but as we talked about, these devices are lifelines, and I think we all need to think about how they should be repaired as such. It kind of makes me want to say that every device that's repaired should be treated as if that device is going to be used either to save somebody else's life or save that person's life sometime in the lifespan of that device. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. I think that, the first thing we do when an emergency happens is call, is pick up our phone and call. I don't think that's an exaggeration. I think, imagine with all the bad press that the industry gets, the repair industry gets around, whenever we see these headlines, it seems like 80% of the time it always seems to be against the industry, right? Imagine what type of field day that anyone that's fighting against the right to repair or something like that could have with the headline or with the story that third-party repair or the lack of skill coming out of a third-party repair shop was responsible in someone not being able to have their device working for an extra 30 seconds or a minute or however long they needed due to leaving out a $2 part stateside. Much less than that if you order straight from the source. I just don't think as an industry we can tolerate that. It's not, it's irresponsible, it's misconduct as far as repair. And I think that anyone that's fighting against the cause could have a real field day with that. And I think we need to really be careful. I remember Louis Rossmann. I was watching one of his videos a while back, and I know he works on a lot of stuff, sound equipment and things like that. But one thing I noticed, and I commend him on, is that he said he would never work on this hospital's tools and their equipment because, as he put it, I'm not going to be responsible for equipment that's used to save lives. And I know he works mostly on MacBooks now, so they're not as portable. You're not going to pick up your MacBook and dial 911, right? But I think that loosely, carries over into our industry. We need to make sure these phones, the first line of defense when something goes wrong, are these devices, and we need to make sure that every repair we put out is, going to put that customer in the best position to save their life, or to save the life or help the life of another person. And I think if we don't do that, we're just, shooting ourselves in the foot. And, if you were a mechanic, you wouldn't leave off a bolt or a nut off of a tire or off of any part of the car, right? Like, essential or not, you wouldn't leave that off. So, obviously that's on a road, you're going 100 miles an hour in that thing. It's not quite the same as a phone, but when you're in that type of scenario where you need the phone just as bad as you need or don't need a car, don't you think that it's, putting in that extra screw or putting in that adhesive, don't you think that's worth that $2? There's no reason that a device should come into your shop in one condition, even if it's cracked, and I know it's already lost its water resistancy when it's cracked, essentially, right? It's still going to hold its resistancy better as long as that seal is intact and it's not mutilated all over the screen and glass pieces are exposing the actual innards of the phone, right? It would be in better, you can't have a device come into your shop and leave with a function missing. That's not, that the industry's not going to tolerate that. The OEMs aren't going to tolerate that. And when we're in the part of the industry that's asking for the keys to the kingdom, essentially, with asking for these things from Apple for right to repair, asking these things from the industry, and then some of us aren't even willing to spend $2 on this to put in phones that are worth $300, $400, $500, $600, $700, $900, $1,000. We don't need anything in the industry that's going to keep pummeling us and keep bringing those negative headlines. We need more positive headlines if we're going to gain the trust of the OEMs and continue to gain the trust of the customer. Again, I'm going to link this video right up in here. I'll link it down below, but I'll show it up here. And if you have any questions about the SOS feature on the watch, I'm going to go ahead and show how to enable that down below. I'll add a link to Apple's site showing how to enable that. There's no excuse for us not to be doing this as an industry. I know that 90% of shops are already doing this, and it's a very small percentage that aren't. But that small percentage are the ones that are going to get the attention and negative press. And all it takes is one time. And then there's, once one blog posts something, then it gets recycled. We all know how that works. But if you have any questions, feel free to comment below. I know this is a little intense for a first video, but I'd like to know how everyone feels, and there will be more to come. So thank you, and see you soon.